All the adversity I've had in my life, all my troubles and obstacles have strengthened me. You may not realize it when it happens, but a kick in the teeth may be the best thing in the world for you. If you don't recognize this man by this quote, then you may recognize, I only hope that we don't lose sight of one thing, that it was all started by a mouse. Hopefully by now you realize that the famous person I'm speaking of is Walt Disney. I'm going to start by discussing Walt Disney's early life, and then talk about how he's changed the world, and then just some interesting facts about him. So first of all, Walt Disney was born December 5th, 1901 in Illinois. He had a relatively normal childhood and a relatively normal family, but he did always exhibit an affinity for drawing. At age 16, he decided to drop out of high school and join the Army, but the Army refused to take him because he was too young, so he ended up joining the Red Cross and spending a year in France. When he came home, he asked his brother to help him find a job as a newspaper artist, and his brother Roy found him a local one, where he started drawing for them and practicing animation. Soon after this, he got really good at animation and decided to quit his job and strike a deal with a local theater company, who started playing his animations. They were short films called Laughograms, and they featured the series called Alice in Cartoonland, which you might recognize because of its closeness to the name Alice in Wonderland. So after these short films became really popular, Disney decided to open up a studio, but shortly after he did, he found himself deep in debt and had to declare bankruptcy. So at this point, his brother Roy, a few others, and himself decided to move to Hollywood and open up a studio called the Disney Brothers Studio. This was great, but unfortunately, one of the first distributors that they worked with stole the rights to Oswald the Lucky Rabbit, which was one of their first cartoons. But because of this, they fortunately came up with the idea of Mickey Mouse. And they did this because they needed a really great idea to get them out of the slump. So from here, things really took off, and as they developed sound, the company became even more popular. Their first full-length film was Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, and it brought in approximately $1.4 million. And that's a lot of money now. It was even more money then, and it was in the middle of the Great Depression. So it's just really astounding how much money that short film, or that full-length film, brought in. And then Disney opened its first park in 1955. So along with all of these amazing accomplishments already, Disney was really amazing and changed the world through his innovation and creativity. First and foremost, as I've mentioned, these movies were so successful, and he created a huge corporation, but they were the first of their kind, and he was always looking for different ways to innovate. And you can recognize this in the theme park with their section that's called Tomorrowland. But on top of all this, it's really the storylines and the animations and the music that really capture the hearts of children and adults alike, and really encourages them to use their imagination, and is just inspiring because he didn't have it easy, but he still managed to create the happiest place on earth. So overall, Disney was just extremely inspirational, and he used his films to help other people reach solace. So just some really interesting facts about Disney is that he loved to use aliases. He most popularly used his full name backwards, which was Retlaw Yensid. But he also used the name M.T. Lott when purchasing a property, so that the seller wouldn't hike up the price because they would know that he had a really impressive corporation. So then on top of that, he won 32 Oscars, 48 Academy Awards, 7 Emmys, the Presidential Freedom Medal, amongst others. And although he didn't live long enough to see it, he was featured on a postage stamp. So overall, I chose Disney because of how accomplished and inspiring he was. And this is based on his early life, his ability to change the world, and the random but very interesting facts about him. Thus, as Walt Disney has said, I only hope that we don't lose sight of one thing, that this all started with a mouse.